Hi, I'm researcher Nai. After a poor night's sleep, normally do you find it slower to react to traffic lights changes on the road, or more difficult to remember what your mom has just reminded you to buy on the phone? You don't care this too much as it surely will go away as you recover the next day after a good sleep. But are you sure there are no long-term effects to your brain functions? You aren't sure, granted. But then at the same time you can't show that long-term effects exist, can you? Now, how about having a 24/7 monitoring of your daily activities and at the same time recording brain data at fixed intervals for a prolonged period? This may help us look at the issue more closely. Here is a research doing exactly this. In this single-subject correlational study, the participant underwent 133 days or 19 weeks of data collection in total. During these 19 weeks, both behavioral and brain data were collected. First, 2 wearables and 1 smartphone app were used to obtain objective quantitative behavioral data from external factors with minimal handling by the participant. External factors such as sleep, physical activity, autonomic nervous system (ANS) activity, and mood were measured. The participant wore the devices at all times, except when charging the devices was required or when it was not allowed, like going to the pool for some devices. Then, 2 cognitive tasks were completed daily by the participant in this study to establish the environment under which brain data would be collected, namely an attention task, AT, and a working memory task, WMT. For the attention task, the participant was instructed to observe a red rectangular box on the computer screen and to press a button as soon as a yellow counter appeared on it. When the button was pressed, the counter stopped and it was subsequently reset. Then the participant waited for the next stimulus to respond. The participant was instructed to press the button as soon as the yellow counter appeared, so that the reaction time was as low as possible, but avoid pressing the button when no stimulus was displayed. For the working memory task, the participant performed 1 and 2 back tasks in 8 alternating blocks of 20 trials each. On each trial, auditory tones and visual gradings were presented, and either tone pitch or grading orientation changed compared to the previous trial. On 1/3 of the trials, visual or auditory distractors concurred with the task-relevant stimuli. Visual distractors were spectrally complex textures and auditory distractors were spectrally complex sounds, such as car honks. The participant's task was to indicate with a button pressed the stimulus that changed and the direction of change with respect to the previous trial, that is 1 back, or to 2 trials before, that is 2 back. When there was a change in the auditory stimulus, compared to the relevant trial, the participant should press down if the current pitch was lower, or up if the current pitch was higher. When the change was in the visual stimulus, compared to the relevant trial, the participant should press right if the current grading orientation rotated clockwise, or left if the current grading orientation rotated counterclockwise. Only 1 stimulus changed per trial. For brain data collection, MRI scanning was performed in a fixed schedule. 2 MRI sessions were arranged per week on Monday and Friday mornings. In each session, when the participant was completing the attention task, the working memory task and in resting state, relevant brain data were collected. Now, the major question researchers asking is, do behavioral, physiological, and lifestyle factors experienced by the individual up to the preceding 15 days affect today's functional brain connectivity patterns? To answer this question, researchers turned their attention to the 4 major networks in the brain: frontal-parietal network, FPN, default mode network, DMN, somatomotor network, SMN, and cingulo-opercular network, CON. The FPN is responsible for execution and goal directing, DMN for inner thoughts, SMN for body actions, and CON for cognitive control and error monitoring. From the brain data obtained, 2 brain network measures were computed for each of the 4 networks, namely the global efficiency, GE, and the participation coefficient, PC. These network measures were used to correlate with behavioral data. The global efficiency quantifies the ease of information transfer within a network, and it is defined as the average inverse shortest path length in a network. The participation coefficient quantifies the ease of information transfer between networks. To compute a network's participation coefficient, for each node in the network, the ratio of the number of links connecting it with an outside network to the total number of links for that node is first calculated, yielding a ratio for each outside network. These ratios are then used to compute the node's participation coefficient, and the network's participation coefficient is the mean of participation coefficients of all its nodes. The researchers tested several hypotheses, and we will examine the results one by one. The first hypothesis is, sleep patterns experienced over the past 15 days are correlated with functional connectivity in the FPN, DMN, SMN, and CON during attention tasks. The correlation map we get for GE looks like this, and that for PC looks like this. It turns out that the GE of the DMN and FPN is correlated with the sleep habits of 2 weeks in the past. In particular, total sleep duration, TSD, awake time, AT, in bed and restless sleep, RS, experienced on the 14th day prior correlate with the GE in the DMN and the FPN. The results also show that sleep patterns experienced beyond the previous day are related to how easily the DMN, FPN, CON, and SMN communicate with other networks. For example, sleep duration experienced on the 15th day prior and restlessness experienced on the 7th day prior are significantly correlated with the PC of the DMN and FPN. Further, awake time in bed 6 days earlier is associated with the between-network connectivity for the CON and SMN. Likewise, prior sleep duration and restlessness correlate with the SMN's PC with lags spanning from 6 to 14 days. The majority of the findings show a positive correlation, indicating that more hours of sleep, awake time in bed, and interruptions during sleep are associated with an increase in global efficiency and participation coefficient. The second hypothesis is, sleep and physical activity patterns experienced over the past 15 days are correlated with functional connectivity in the FPN, DMN, and SMN during working memory tasks. We obtain for this hypothesis the following GE correlation map and the following PC correlation map. Such results reveal correlations for short lags, that is less than 7 days, in number of steps, SS, and inactive time, IT, with GE of the DMN and SMN. In particular, the number of steps taken and inactive time on the 3rd day prior were found to be related to the DMN's GE. Similarly, we noted significant short lag correlations between the number of steps taken 5 days earlier in the PC of the DMN, FPN, and SMN. These negative correlations suggest that reduced step count 5 days prior is associated with increased between-network measures of the 3 aforementioned networks. For time lags exceeding 7 days, our results show positive long lag correlations between sleep patterns and the PC of the DMN and SMN. Moreover, the number of steps and inactive time experienced 11 to 12 days prior are associated with the PC in the FPN and SMN. These results suggest that reduced physical activity and sleep hours from more than a week ago correlates with decreased number of links between the DMN, FPN, and SMN. Finally, our third hypothesis is, sleep, autonomic nervous system activity and mood patterns experienced over the past 15 days are correlated with functional connectivity in the FPN, DMN, and CON during resting state. Here is the related correlation map for GE, and that for PC. Results suggest that the DMN's GE predominantly correlates with ANS activity such as respiratory rate, RR, and heart rate variability, HRV, experienced in the prior days. Similarly, the FPN's GE is mostly associated with prior respiratory rate. Instead, positive effect, PA, lags are significant factors influencing the CON's GE. These phenomena indicate that while the DMN and FPN's GE may be dynamically linked with ANS activity, mood factors may play a more substantial role in influencing the CON's within-network integration. Notably, most of the dynamic correlations between ANS factors and the DMN's GE are negative. This suggests that lower respiratory rates and HRV may be linked to more efficient information transfer within the DMN. In contrast, factors like awake time in bed from 15 days prior and recent mood changes up to 2 days before appear more influential in the DMN's PC. Then, the FPN's PC shows a strong, short-lag correlation with mood effects and HRV. A similar short-lag trend is seen in the CON. For example, sleep duration and restlessness from the past 3 days are positively correlated with the CON's PC. Further, positive short-lag correlations exist between mood factors and the CON's connectivity. In particular, more negative effect, NA, and higher stress level, SL, are linked to better CONs between network integration. To conclude, behavioral, physiological, and lifestyle factors experienced by the individual up to the preceding 15 days do affect today's functional brain connectivity patterns. So bear in mind to live a good life every day in order to keep your brain smart in the long run. See you in the next episode.